I'm still thinking about one and the number one and oneness, and kind of how it's how I'm understanding it. And by understanding, I don't mean knowing what it means. That's different. To me, understanding means oh God, what does it mean? It's something that connects a really experiential, embodied sense with an abstract concept, something like that. I know that's not exactly right, but when I say the word understand, I mean something like that. That it's a felt thing, understanding. But it's not just a felt thing. It's a felt thing which has an intentionality, you know, which is about something. In this case, it's about one. What is my understanding of the word one? And I think it's funny actually, because I've been kind of wrestling with this a little bit lately. I think there's two understandings I've got going there, and they kind of link up via shape, which I'll tell you about. I mean, because one, you know, is a number, isn't it? Like, and you know, I point to a tree. There it is. Look, there's one tree. There's one tree, and I'm just speculating here, but I'm guessing that I learnt that one in the same way that I learnt numbers generally, and you might have learnt numbers when I was a kid. You know, you have this picture book, and you open to page 1. There's a picture of an apple on there, and it says one apple, and the teacher points to the apple and says one apple, and you point to the apple and say one apple, and then you turn over the page and there's 2 giraffes. The teacher says 1, 2, 1 giraffe, 2 giraffes, 2 giraffes, and you do the same thing, 1, 2, and then 3 soldiers, 1, 2, 3, it's whatever, you know, you do that, don't you? So it's associated in the first instance with objects, I would guess. I can't imagine just being born with numbers in your head. Sure, the capacity to have some grasp of at least low numbers, but we don't get born with numbers, do we? So you have to kind of learn that. And then I'm guessing that what would happen after that, because if that's all you learnt, then you just think that 1 meant apple, wouldn't you? If that's the only example of 1 you were ever given, it would just be 1 is apple. So you're given lots of other experiences, aren't you? And lots of other experiences of 2-ness, so it doesn't just stay at giraffes. So, you know, the next book you look at would have 2 trees in it, and the teacher would say, look, 2 trees, 1, 2, and you do the same, 1, 2 trees, like that. Come on, please, we're going to do this way. And so on, and then you'd meet 2 other things, you know, 2 twins. I've got twins actually, so that jumps to mind. 2 twins, 1, 2 twins. Actually, the 2 in twins is a bit redundant, isn't it? Of course, I've got 2 twins. I wouldn't, you know, 3 twins, would you? Anyway, I've got 2 twins. 1, 2, and I'm guessing that after a while of that, there's some kind of gist, some kind of pattern becomes recognisable in your head. You know what I mean? I don't know if this is true, but it might be. That the 2 that was present in the picture of the soldiers is also present in the picture of the trees and the picture of the twins. So there's something about 2-ness. My guess would be that, and this is how it feels really, is it would be almost like the body doing it. You know, because when I hear the number 2, I'll count things, particularly if I'm trying to be infantile about it, as I do quite often. I would kind of experience the 2 as a kind of rhythm. 1, 2, dum dum, dum dum, like that. Like you see this bit of gardening thing, you see somebody's put this string up here to keep the birds off, with CDs hanging off it. I would go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, test it, 1, 2, you know what I mean? 1, 2. It's got a rhythm to it, and it's in my head, that, and in my body, it's in my arm, the gesture I just did, it's in the vocal cords, it's in my breathing, all that. 1, 2. So if I was to speculate about an origin of the feeling of 2-ness, it would be in something like that. Ba-bum, lub-dub, that kind of thing. I mean, I don't do that now when I see 2 things. That recognition is instant. The rhythm kicks in instantly. Ba-bum. Or 3-ness, bum bum bum. A little waltz step every time I see 3s. Something like that, you know. And that's completely visceral. So that would be part of the embodied component of my understanding of 2-ness or 3-ness. But 1-ness is interesting, isn't it? 1-ness. Look, 3 minds, bum bum bum, bum bum bum, on the mountaintop. I'm looking around for something that's got a 1 to it. Oh, there, look, perfect. 1 dog. 1 dog. See, when I do 1, it's like I mean, it's just a point, isn't it? But 1 feels like a point to me. 1. 1. It's almost like I've thrown something and it's landed at the one thing, you know what I mean? 1. As if I stabbed my finger into something or thrown a dart at it, something like that. 1. So 1 in embodied terms has that sense of a, as I say, a trajectory and a landing. Okay, but that 1 is has a kind of character to it. It doesn't kind of end there. The 1, for me at least, starts to become the mark that pointing makes, in a kind of similar way that the rhythm of 1-2 for me makes a kind of mark in my imagination, which is like a line, you know, the line that you would make between object 1 and object 2. You know, if I point to those two things in that field back there, 1-2, there's a line gets described, 1-2. So 2 has that drawing of a line feeling for me, but 1 is the point. So the point itself becomes the part of the 1. But a point, what is a point though? You know, a point, we can't conceptualize points really, can we? They're abstract, they're dimensionless, they have no physical existence, points. They have physical location but no existence. And we can't imagine things, we can't understand things, there's no way of embodying things that have no existence. So when I imagine a point, tell me if you do the same, because I'd be interested to know. I imagine it as a really, really tiny little dot. You know, like a little pencil point, the sharpest, hardest pencil you can imagine, a 6H pencil, just tucked onto a piece of paper. Tiny little dot. You know, or the tiniest hole made with a, you know, point on a compass, or something like that. Tiny little hole. Almost dimensionless, as close to dimensionless as you can get and still be imaginable. But even then, that point is not without its characteristics. So when I think of a tiny little point, a tiny little dot on a piece of paper, the tiniest, most infinitesimal dot. Sorry, the battery ran out on my flip camera. So I'm just talking about this dot, and the little dot on the piece of paper also has characteristics for me, properties. And particularly the property of roundness. When I imagine a point on a piece of paper, even though of course intellectually I know it's dimensionless, it's just the intersection point of two theoretical lines, which themselves have no width. Even though I kind of know a point has no extension, I can't help but imagine it as the most tiny little circle imaginable. That's what it's like for me. That's how I understand it. Tiny circle. But it's so small, this circle that 1 represents. It's so small that there's no structure to it. There could be nothing inside it. You know what I mean? That little 6H pencil that I've stabbed there. There's no room inside there for any marks to be made or for anything to be put in or taken out. It's a little tiny sealed knot of circularity, that little point, that 1. But it is a circle, you know, and a circle has a characteristic. Oops, dog coming, I'm going to turn around. Big Alsatian coming the other way, and Phoebe doesn't like Alsatians. So it has that characteristic of being circular. So just to recap, you know, when I'm talking about 1, part of my understanding of it, part of what's happening in the undercarriage of my thought, is that I'm pointing at something, a singular object. The pointing leaves a mark on the object, like a pencil point, and that mark is the tiniest imaginable circle with no content. That's part of how I'm understanding 1. But as I said at the beginning, that's only one way of understanding 1, and the other one that I have is as one I've talked about before, which is about everything being connected, the set of all sets, even the set which even contains itself. It's you know, the universe as 1, in which, you know, because pictures of the universe tend to be circular as well, don't they? Because this is a circle going on here again. Phoebe, let's try up here. I've never been up here before. you know, if you imagine the biggest thing, you know, the line around everything, the line around forever. If you just imagine about the universe, again, to me, my imagination starts to conceive that as circular, a great big circle, a sphere really, but you know, a big circular object, which is so big that it has nothing outside of it. I mean, that bit's kind of inconceivable. I get to that and I balk at it and just make the circle a bit bigger. And at some point I just have to give up and just accept that it's a circle with no outside. But again, that oneness, that other one that I've talked about in previous videos, the one that is everything in my imagination, is a big circle, isn't it? So these two ones, the one that is I talked about in the first part, which is this infinitesimally small circle on a piece of paper which has no contents, in which everything else is outside of it, seems to me to be the exact inverse, you know, an involuted, turned inside out version of the other one that is the universe at large, that has nothing outside of it and everything inside of it, you know. So you've got these two circles, a circle with a dot in the middle. The big circle has no outsides, the small circle has no insides, and everything is between these two ones, between one and one. Now I know that makes no sense. It's just what my thinking about one leads me to, nothing else more than that. But yeah, I mean, I know you do find that idea. It's not. I'm saying I'm speculating, but obviously it's an informed speculation because I've read stuff and that. And you know, that symbol of the circle with a dot in the middle, you find in a lot of kind of hermetic writings, don't you? And that idea that all is one features in quite a lot of, again, hermetic and mystical writings, and in different forms you find it reflected in kind of scientific writing, philosophical writing. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it's personified, isn't it? Sometimes it's given the characteristic of God. I did read somewhere that there were the two routes to mysticism are the outside journey and the inside journey. You know, if you're pursuing the one, then you either direct your gaze out and try to make contact with the big circle, or you direct your gaze in, metaphorically speaking, and try to make contact with the small circle. Because ultimately, in those kind of things, the small circle and the big circle are, notionally at least, the same thing. It is said by the sages of old. I don't know what I'm talking about.